Thank you and welcome everyone for joining us today for our webinar on creating new applications and revenue streams with soft signage. We are very excited to have our special guest speakers here today. From Top Value Fabrics, we have Michael Compton and Michael Sanders. And from Gerber Technology, we have Mark Bibbo and Peter Kilburn and Ketty Pillet. They have some very exciting information to share with you guys today. I'm going to go over a quick overview of what the webinar will entail. We'll go over the dye sublimation, transfer, and direct-to-fabric disperse process. Then we'll discuss the continuous printing production workflow, share with you the textiles for soft signage applications, some new and exciting antimicrobial innovations for soft signage. Then we'll discuss the finishing equipment and different printing and finishing equipment and the special features. We'll discuss some workflow cutting solutions that Gerber has some special things to share with you. And then we'll follow up that with some additional resources for COVID-19 and beyond from our guest speakers. And then we'll exciting announcements and promotions. Like we said before the webinar started, if you have any questions, you can just post them in the chat window and we'll address them at the end of the presentation. So a continuous printing workflow overview. You will start off with your CAD software, and this could be Photoshop, Illustrator, CorelDRAW. Standard file types that can be utilized are PDF, TIFF, EPS, JPEG, PNG. These are the standards. There's others as well. From your CAD software images, you will then move into your open the file in the RIP printing software. The RIP software functions and communicates to tell the printer to print. So this is where you would set up your workflow, your quantity to be printed, color profile, color management. Mimaki provides RasterLink 6 Plus when you purchase a printer. You also have the optional TX-Link 4 software. From the RIP software, you would then move into the printing production. And for the wide format printing, you're able to do the vast customization, lower your production costs, and increase your speeds to market. So for your dye sublimation transfer process, you first print on dye sublimation transfer paper, and then you transfer the print to the fabric through the application of heat. So the inks go from a solid form on the paper to a gas form through the application of heat back into a solid into the textile. So you have really excellent wash fastness. From here, then you would move into a cut and sew operation. For your direct-to-fabric printing with sublimation inks, you would start off with the pre-treated fabric. The pre-treatment is on the fabric. It gives the textile an ink acceptance layer. So you print on the, you pre-treat the fabric, then you print on the fabric, then you heat set the inks with a calendar heat press, and then you move into the finishing cut and sew operation. So for the dye sublimation transfer and direct for fabric printing workflow, you would start off with the RIP program. You set up your file, the scale, the color profile, and how the quantity to be printed. And then for the sublimation transfer, you print on the paper, heat transfer to the fabric, then cut and sew. For the direct to fabric, you would print directly to coated fabric, heat set the inks, and cut and sew. Just a quick overview. Here we're going to discuss and share with you the types of textiles for soft signage. So I'm going to welcome Michael Sanders from Top Value Fabrics. Michael.
Hello, Victoria. Thank you very much for inviting us to speak here.
Thank you for joining us. Could you share with us some of the best textile fiber constructions for soft signage and how these are produced?
Yes. Yes. First of all, there are 3 different types of fabrics that you can print on. They are wovens, circular knits, and warp knits. Warp knits being the best choice for doing soft signage because of its dimensional stability and also because of its locking stitch. If you were printing on, let's say, a woven fabric and you were to get a rip or a tear, let's say it was in a stadium, it would rip completely across and you'd be in a big trouble. If it was going into an SEG frame and you get a rip or a tear, that could be catastrophic in the situation. So you really need to have a very good stable fabric that's going to hold upright, going to have dimensional stability, which means that once it goes into a frame system or into any kind of a application, that it's not going to move around on you. And that's what you get with a warp knit. And we're very pleased to have as our partner for our warp knits are George Otto Frederick from Germany. They have the most unbelievable facility for warp knits in the world, in my opinion. They are the largest manufacturer of warp knits in Europe. And also, the facility is probably the greenest facility I've ever seen. I've been in plants all over the world and seen probably more plants than most people have. And this is just something very special on how they do everything. As you can see from the pictures here, you can pretty much eat off the floor. And if we go to the next picture, I'll show you a little bit more there. As you can see, when you're talking about a warp knit, it's a warp. So the warps are up on top, they're hanging, and then they go into the machine where they're actually knitted on up with this locking stitch.
Could you share a little bit more information on what types of coatings are utilized for polyesters for soft signage applications and how these are applied?
Yes, when we're talking about coatings, that encompasses a lot of different areas here. When they're talking about a coating, the coating is there can be coatings like a block out, which is done with a knife coating, which is only on one side. It's put on very precisely so that it doesn't interfere with the other side of the fabric and has a true block out when it's doing it. Then you have your coatings for the printing, which when you're talking about the coatings for the printing, this is something that you really need to understand. This is where you'll get the first of all, the white point of the color itself is in the bleaching part and where they're getting it, but the white point is very important because that's going to give you the brightest print. But then also the coatings will help it with the light fastness, the migration of the print, the way the print holds up. Also, when you have something like the flame retardants that we put in, antimicrobial finishes, water repellent finishes, sunlight finishes, these are all different finishes that get applied onto the fabric. So it's really, really important that the chemistries are done right. And that's one thing that G&O really prides itself on. They're like the leaders in the industry of coming up with new coatings and new ways of putting them on and how they work on the fabrics, which will give you the right results you want when you're printing.
Is there any key benefits to these coatings for soft signage applications that you see?
Yes, and especially depending if you're doing a front lit or a back lit. For instance, if you're doing a back lit, you want the illumination of the lights from behind to go through the fabric without having any dark spots or shadowing effects. You want a very nice, beautiful, even look that doesn't look artificial, so it doesn't make the image look wrong. You want it to look like how the photographer intended it to print. And then also the coatings also will, depending on if it's a front lit or a back lit or for flags, work on it the best for it.
Yes, I was just going to move into that as well. For the other various types of applications, do you have recommendations for the types of textiles that should be used for S&G frames, backlit, frontlit, flags, banners, or blackout displays?
Right, because when we're talking about doing these banners and flags and things, there's two different ways of printing. It's the dye sublimation and there's direct disperse, and both have their places where to do it. The advantage to doing direct disperse is that you don't have the paper cost and you don't have to do the extra step of putting it through the calendar. But there are advantages and disadvantages. If you're doing a flag, you definitely want to go and do direct disperse, because if you don't and you're doing dye sublimation, you're only going to get the image to transfer good on the front of the fabric. It will not go through the back. But if you do it direct disperse, you're going to get anywhere from 85 to 95% print through to have that quality of a flag back and front image. Also, in a light box, it's really important to get as much ink onto the fabric as possible without overloading it. And by doing direct disperse, you can get that to happen. If you are going to do dye sublimation on a light box, you want to make sure you're using a heavy enough paper that you're going to be able to transfer enough ink onto the fabric to get a good enough saturation to get the color right for when you're using a light box. So it's really important to work with your supplier to give you the right fabric for the job you're doing.
Yes, and Top Value Fabrics has a wide range of textiles to serve all of these application markets as well. So.
Yeah, I mean, and especially now, I mean, We have fabrics now that go all the way up to 5 meters. So we're stocking in approximately 60-inch, 126, and then all the way up to 5 meters. So depending on the job, I mean, there's so many new things that are happening and new transitions that are happening with what's using for signage. And Mike Compton's going to be telling you a little bit more about some of these other finishes.
Yeah, thank you so much for all that great information. Yes, so now we're going to move into learning about some antimicrobial textile innovations for soft signage. I'm going to welcome Michael Compton from Top Value Fabrics. Welcome.
Hi, Victoria. How are you?
Very good. Thank you so much for joining us today. Could you share some more information?
Sure, absolutely. First of all, I want to thank you for inviting us, and we value our partnerships with Mimaki and Gerber Technologies, who's on here, and we've got a lot of things going on that we're really excited about. The first is we're just launching a new antimicrobial textile for soft signage, and the name of that is Decotex 7048 AMP-GFS, and I know that's a mouthful, but the AMP part of that stands for antimicrobial, with the antimicrobial finish. The P means permanent. The nice thing about this fabric is with the antimicrobial finish, you can wash it up to 30 times and you're not going to lose the antimicrobial part of it, which is the most important part. Again, this is a fabric from George and Otto Friedrich. It's tested to a lot of certifications. And if you'd like me to go through that, I'd be happy to do that.
Please.
Okay. So one of the first certifications, and again, I'll just point out this fabric is going to be in our inventory in June, so it's getting close. Some of the key standards are, and I won't list out the whole ASTME name, you can see it in front of you, but what this means is this ASTME certification is that the fabric with the antimicrobial finish prevents 99.9% of bacteria and mildew from forming on the fabric, which is exactly what we're looking for, especially when we get into the soft signage part of this. It's also Okotex standard 100 class 2 certified, which is really important because what that means is it's certified for skin contact. So as well as being a nice soft signage antimicrobial fabric, it's also very versatile. You can actually sew masks out of this. It's got good breathability and again, certified for skin contact. And like I mentioned, it's got excellent wash fastness where you're not going to wash out the antimicrobial finish. And 7048 in itself is a worldwide best-selling fabric for us and for G&O. So with this type of fabric, you're not going to have to do anything different when you go to dye sub, print it, or print it with direct dispersed inks. Same profiles, same great optic white color, so you're going to get the same brilliance that you normally would.
Yeah, this is very exciting stuff. You guys, Top Value Fabrics innovations on antimicrobials with non-medical PPE for gowns, scrubs, masks, and now soft signage. What opportunities do you see for creating new applications within the soft signage market and new revenue streams?
Right, there's actually quite a bit, and the amount of applications continues to grow every day. Of course, you know, a lot of this emerges out from COVID-19, and but these applications are going to be around with us for a long time, and so these are something for our print service providers to definitely take a close look at. Especially, you know, you're going to see a lot of messaging and branding opportunities. In the slide here, you see basically medical divider walls. And you know, these are somewhat mock-ups, but as you can imagine, you can print these with really nice scenery, you know, especially in a medical environment where you want people to feel more comfortable and still have, you know, antimicrobial fabric. The other thing you're going to see is a lot of different divider and separator walls and a lot of different applications, a lot of them based on SEG frames. So like in this one, you see there's retail divider walls in between checkout lanes, cash registers. You're going to see this type of thing in pharmacies, basically every type of application. So I'll just go through a few. Definitely retail, restaurants, hotels, offices, airports, healthcare facilities, schools, production facilities, trade shows, and even hair salons. So a couple of things with restaurants, and we've talked about this, where you see restaurants, they're starting to put up plexiglass dividers in between booths and things like that. And one of the things that I see even in the grocery stores is people don't really know how to clean plexiglass. They end up with something that's kind of cloudy and scratched, not looking real good. And with restaurants, you can actually put these in between booths. Let's say you've got a really nice environment, print something nice on there. It can be romantic. You know, you have a nice environment where you're closing. And besides that, it helps keep the area quieter too. So something that's very attractive. Just like hair salons, you know, I go to my local Great Clips when they're open and get my hair cut, and they've got kind of hardboard dividers in between each station. Well, now what you're going to find is, you know, printed fabric that's antimicrobial. So it's really a good opportunity for PSPs out there, especially with branding messages. And as you go into some of the big box stores, let's take Lowe's or Home Depot for an example, they're already doing types of things like this to close off aisles and for directional signage. But if you think about it, whether it's Lowe's, Home Depot, CVS, Trader Joe's, whoever you go to, you can get one of their vendors, or they can get one of their vendors to brand that. So if you go in Lowe's tells DeWalt, hey, print DeWalt on there. They're paying for the fabric, they're paying for the printing. And the nice thing with the SEG frames that we're looking at here, that's constant turnover in business with new promotions, seasonal, and things like that. So it's really a great business to get into. It was a great business before. It's an even better business now.
Absolutely. As businesses start to reopen, especially hospitality and all businesses,
Absolutely.
This is definitely a great market to get involved with. For other applications, do you have recommendations for the soft signage that will create new revenue streams as well?
Yeah, so there's a lot of messaging out there. You can see it from the photos here. A lot of it's going to be medically oriented or social distancing, and this is the same. Again, it could be for retail, it could be for airports, a lot of different applications. Here you see our roll-up banner stands. So we have fabrics we recommend, like our Decotex Blockout, which has an acrylic black back, which really makes the print stand out, really makes it look quality. And of course, you know, again, these are replaceable, removable, and it's a constant message that can continue to change. And it's just really a good application for branding, you know, and these have been around, but this is a new application for it. Right, so again, coming out of COVID-19, and everything's curbside pickup, you know, we hear that's going to continue. So, but there's a lot of fabrics that we have that you can use for this type of things, applications that are being used now. So flag, banner, mesh, you know, you'll see the flags with, you know, curbside pickup, like I said, hours of operation, delivery service, online order pickup. And there's a lot of things you can do. You can print feather flags like this in the photo. You can print banners. People are even printing it on fence mesh to wrap around the exterior of a retail location or restaurant or something like that. So again, there's a tremendous amount that you can do with these applications.
Yeah, absolutely. For outdoor signage applications, what innovations does Top Value Fabric have for this market?
Yeah, again, this is something that's grown quite a bit with the types of fabrics that we have for outdoor canopies, umbrellas, things like that. One of the ones we recommend a lot is our Decotex Sun. This product is 100% waterproof and also has an anti-fungicide treatment on it. So if you have a pop-up canopy or umbrella and it's raining, like it seems to be raining here every day, but you can actually put that away wet. You know, you're not going to have a problem with mold and mildew on it. And, you know, again, you can print this with, you know, direct disperse, dye sublimation. One of the things for the Mimaki customers out there who have a UJV printer, you know,
UV ink.
UV inks are awesome for this because they're gonna stand up for a long time. And besides that, they're very, you know, fade resistant for sun. So again, medical testing facilities, temporary shelters, you're even starting to see like pop-up umbrellas for drive-throughs, you know, Chick-fil-A, places like that, depending on what part of the country you're in. But again, it's very, very popular.
As we transition into the virtual, or we've been transitioning into the virtual platforms to do business, what other opportunities do you see for branding and messaging?
Well, this photo here, I think is a really cool one. You got so many people on Zoom calls and, hey, webinars like what we're on right now. and all types of video conferencing. And this is going to continue. We're going to see a lot of people emerging from this that are still going to work from home, either some of the time or all of the time, because companies have really figured out how to telecommute, basically. So this allows you to put a pop-up display behind you. Again, you could use the Decotex Anti-microbial. If it's your home office, you could use one of our stretch fabrics. But it gives you a professional background, a professional branding message when you're doing things like what we're doing right now. And I expect this to become very popular. The other thing we're seeing is a lot of virtual events. There's a lot of virtual trade shows going on where people will still use our backlit fabrics like our Microlux soft. And what people are doing is they're setting up displays, you know, basically in a warehouse, and they're doing virtual events. And that's becoming a norm for an application. Same thing for music concerts. The artists are continuing to launch new albums every day. And so you're seeing a lot more virtual concerts and things like this. It could be anything, runway, modeling, gallery exhibits. So there's just a lot that you can do. Again, a lot of it's based on SEG frame systems, and our frame partners like Matrix Frame as an example, they are really on board with these types of frame systems. And for our print service providers, again, it's a business that I would really encourage you to jump into. Kind of what we see right now is there's some companies who are kind of waiting for things to return to normal. And what I would encourage is, hey, jump on the new applications now and be ahead of the curve, because yeah, while things will return to normal, it's going to take a little bit of time. So here's applications that you can attack right now and really increase your revenue and really get some business locked in for now and in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's great bundling opportunities for these types of applications as well,
Absolutely.
especially for live trade shows or pop-up shops where you have a backdrop, but then you also have a tablecloth printed and branded. There's great opportunity here.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for all of that great information.
Thank you.
We're going to move into some of the equipment to create these applications. First here, we're going to look at the TX300P 1800 Mark II. This would be to create a smaller soft signage applications. It's a small to medium production printer, 75.5 inch printable width. The cool thing about this printer is its hybrid functions. It allows you to print not just the directive fabric with dispersings, but you can also print the dye sublimation transfer inks. So you have the versatility to move between paper and fabric. So this is very ideal for somebody who's looking to print, you know, in soft signage, flags, but then also, you know, banners, for instance. Its other hybrid functions would allow you to print directive fabric with pigment inks and directive fabric with dispersings. And then the third function is the world's first printer that has this ability, and it can print directive fabric with pigment inks and then direct to paper with dye sublimation transfer inks. So you have really, this printer is great for your entry level and for your vast and mass customization, because you're able to print on natural fibers if you go the pigment and disperse route. So for somebody that maybe want to do some soft signage but wants to access versatility in other markets, this is possible because you have this kind of flexibility. The printer is very easy and user-friendly to change between the paper and the fabric. You just pop out the platen and then you pop it back in to change back. So it's very functional. It takes about 5 seconds, so easy to use. For our dye sublimation printers for continuous production, these would also be used for your smaller scale soft signage applications. We have the small to medium production TS300P 1800, and that's a 76.3 printable width. We have the medium to large production 76.3 width as well. It's a TS35 1800 printer. So these printing units come with Mimaki bulk ink systems. The 2 liters is the standard. However, the TS35 1800 for the medium to large production, you have the option to do a 10-liter ink system, as well as another option to do a mini jumbo roll unit on the back. And what this mini jumbo roll unit allows you to put a 660-pound paper on the back. So when you combine the paper jumbo with the ink, really the ink paying for itself. You're able to reduce your cost and increase your productivity and your downtime, because you won't have to change out the ink or the paper. So it's really suitable for a continuous printing production workflow. When you're running 4 colors ink system, CMYK, you have an uninterrupted ink supply system as well. This will also contribute to continuous production printing, because once one of the inks is empty, it taps into the other ink available without stopping printing. For your larger soft signage applications for the grand format, we have the dye sublimation transfer model, the TS500P3200, and you're looking at about 129.5 printable width. This printer is great for your huge exhibit graphics. Also can be utilized for home decor, other applications, but for this presentation we'll focus on soft signage. And then you have your directive fabric model, which is your TX500P3200 DS. And this will be great for certain flag applications or other applications where it's very desirable to have a lot of ink penetration through the fiber. This printer has an inline heat fixation unit. So this is very ideal because you wouldn't have to take the fabric off the printer and take it to a heat press to fix the inks. It's all in one continuous workflow. So all of Mimaki's have our core technologies. So all of our printers come with these special technologies, which is I'll briefly go over them because this is kind of what sets Mimaki apart in the industry. When you look at something printed out of Mimaki versus another manufacturer, this is where is key in the image reproduction. So here we have the nozzle check unit, the NCU, and we have a nozzle recovery system. And so what this function does is the nozzle check unit has a laser beam that goes across the platen of the printer, basically across the printer's width. And so when an ink droplet isn't fired out of the print head, the laser beam goes across and it recognizes this. Then it'll automatically go into a cleaning function. If the nozzle can be recovered, then it'll continue printing. It's all automatic. If the nozzle cannot be recovered, the nozzle recovery system automatically goes on and it'll replace the defective nozzle with a working nozzle and it'll continue printing. So this is a continuous workflow technology. Here, these are 3 other technologies Mimaki prides itself on. We have Mimaki's waveform control technology, which is my favorite. So basically the waveform technology, it controls the frequency at which the ink droplet is jetted from the print head. So it allows for the ink droplets to be in a perfect spherical form and for them to have really precise shape and formation to recreate the images on the material. So this is where you see the super refined edges, very crisp and fine lines and details of Mimaki printed materials. Then we have the Mimaki Advanced Pass system, and this allows for a smooth gradation replication of images. Basically, as the print head moves from pass to pass, it prints and lays the ink down in a gradation-like pattern. And so by reducing and creating an even ink density on the image, you are able to avoid complications like banding. And banding is a very common undesirable effect when you are printing, where you see lines across the printed media due to uneven print density. So this technology is great for reducing that. Then we also have variable dot printing, which allows for various 3 ink droplet variations to be printed at a time. And so this is controlled by the resolution that you select, but this would also give you really high quality, smooth gradation printing. So after we have printed our soft signage, we would move into the heat setting part of the workflow. So there's various types of heat presses and calendars on the market. For soft signage, you'll probably be sticking with a roll-to-roll HEP heat press. There's also hybrid models available in the market and clamshells. Hybrid models allow you to heat set pre-cut pieces as well as roll-to-roll, but that could be used more for apparel market, but just to make you aware of what's available. So the roll-to-roll calendar heat presses are great for the continuous production and for soft signage. Oh yeah, I did want to mention for electric versus the oil drum heat presses, you have more heat consistency with the oiled filled drums versus the electric. Electric systems are still good technologies, but you definitely, when you want to go with more of the high quality or grand format printing technologies, you might want to be looking at an oiled filled drum heat press. And here, we're going to discuss and share information about different finishing and cutting equipment with the Gerber MCT cutter. I want to invite Gerber Technology to come share with us. So Mark Bibbo, welcome.
Thank you, Victoria. And again, thank you to Mimaki for inviting us to participate in this webinar. We greatly appreciate that. And again, also thanks to Michael and Michael for their collaboration with the great fabrics that they provide so that we can print and cut a great solution for our customers. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the MCT cutter, its versatility, and specifically its versatility with regard to soft signage. What the MCT cutter allows our customers to do is to really have two great cutting technologies on soft signage, the first being laser and the second being traditional knife cutting. So with the laser cutting, there's just a great way for our customers to be able to provide non-contact cutting with laser. And there's several advantages of non-contact cutting. Specifically, the laser is not pushing around or moving the material as any other mechanical cutting process can do. So with the non-contact cutting, you're able to cut very, very intricate shapes without having the knife blade or the knife wheel pushing the material around. So that has a lot of great advantages for our customers. Of course, there's a great throughput speed where you're cutting with the laser, you're cutting with light. There's no lifting or turning of tools. It's all just a very smooth, seamless cutting process. There's also no overcuts. A lot of times with a mechanical cutting process, at an intersection of a cut, you might have the knife blade overcut a little bit. You can back that off in software, but that does slow the cutting process down. And again, with a laser, you don't have to worry about that. You get a nice, fast, clean cut. And in soft signage in particular, one of the great advantages of laser cutting is to have a sealed edge. So as the laser is cutting along the fabric, you're going to get a nice, clean, sealed edge, no fraying or no fabric hangers that are sometimes seen with mechanical cutting processes. And that just makes the entire sewing process much more efficient. And so you've got a faster cutting process and a faster sewing process, and really allows our customers to produce product much more quickly. Now, there are some materials that they don't lend itself well for the laser cutting process, specifically anything that has PVC in it. PVC actually cuts very well. It's just the gases that are emitted when you try to burn PVC. So we always advise customers you don't want to be using a laser on anything that has PVC in it. And for those applications, we have a driven rotary wheel that's part of our system, one of the many tools that's part of our system. So we give our customers tremendous flexibility to go from knife cutting to laser cutting. And one of the key elements in our system is our laser belt. We actually are the only system that has a dual conveyorized laser belt. So the laser belt has an aluminum top on it, and underneath the aluminum top is a traditional felt belt. So if a customer is using the laser, they can cut with the laser, and then if they decide to shift over to knife cutting, they can remove the top aluminum belt in about 10 minutes, and they're knife cutting. And then if they want to go back to using the laser, the aluminum belt zips right up. It runs the entire length of the conveyorized table, and the changeover from knife cutting to laser and vice versa is really, it's a maximum of 10 minutes. If someone's experienced, we've seen our techs do that maybe 5 or 6 minutes or so. So it's really speaks to the versatility and the efficiency of the overall system.
Thank you. Could you share some of the cutting software solutions that Gerber has in the market?
Sure. So the Gerber MCT cutter fits right into the overall end-to-end workflow that our customers need, starting right up with the CAD software, going into the RIP software, the printer, the cutter, and of course the sewing process. The heart of the cutting workflow for Gerber is Tiger Vision software. So Tiger Vision is included with every Gerber MCT cutter, and that's our software to run the table. However, it's the interface with the rest of the world. It's compatible with all of the third-party popular RIP programs and printers, including Mimaki Raster Ink 6 Plus. The Tiger Vision is the vehicle that will read in the printed graphic. We use a camera that's included with the MCT cutter, and the camera in Tiger Vision will read printed dots on any of the graphics that our customers have printed on the material, and that allows us to provide a very accurate print-to-cut registration. So not only are we reading the dots and knowing where to do the cutting, some materials will stretch, just the nature of the material. So if the print tends to stretch a little bit, we actually run a compensation routine in software. So by using the dots that we read in with our camera and knowing where the cut lines are, even if the material does stretch, our software is able to end up providing information to our cutter to provide a very, very accurate print-to-cut registration. The Tiger Vision also is really it's the heart of the system in terms of a user interface. So we're bringing in the data, we're editing, changing shapes, and our customers are setting up different parameters, different cutting parameters. So whether they're using a laser, a router, or any one of our 11 knife tools, all of those cutting parameters are stored in our Tiger Vision software. So when repeat jobs come up, a customer doesn't have to remember how fast did I go on this material, or what setting did I use if I'm using the router, what RPM. That's all stored in our Tiger Vision software, making the user interface very, very easy and very efficient for our customers. We also bring in, we provide our customers many ways to get information into the Tiger Vision software. Of course, we're importing CAD files. We can also import QR codes, barcodes for scanning. So a lot of our customers are embedding more and more data into the QR codes. We pull in the QR codes and we begin to start cutting right away. And this graphic is actually a screenshot from our Tiger Vision software, just showing that we import in all of the industry standard file formats, whether it be PDF, DXF, various XML file formats. So very open architecture, easy to use for our customers, and very fits nicely into the overall end-to-end workflow.
Absolutely. Thank you for all that great information.
You're welcome.
After we go through the cutting process of the workflow, we would move into the finishing and sewing process. So for finishing sewing equipment, there's manual and automated solutions. Here in these pictures you see we're featuring the Kronos Go and the Kronos Ultimate. The Kronos Go is a manual double needle sewing machine. And this is more of the, the entry level. It's an economical purchase. And then on the right, the automated sewing machine is going to be having a driven automated belt system. And this is going to be for your heavy production. Both of these sewing machines are great for soft signage applications, the silicone edge graphics. I know we've discussed this a lot, but basically for backlit displays, frontlit displays, when you're using textiles, strips of silicone are sewn onto the edges, borders of the textile, and then that's how those the textiles are then pushed into the aluminum frame and stabilized by the frame to then be displayed. So this is the end process where you would sew these on. And it's also, these types of sewing solutions are good for flags, banners, tents, curtains, etc. We have some additional resources from our guest speakers, as well as Mimaki. So Mimaki has created an application page to COVID-19 together, as well as a together page. So for the application page, you can find applications, textiles, signage, 3D applications, as well as industrial products. You can find templates and videos. Everything you need there for printing and creating these types of applications can be accessed here. We also, on the Together We Print page, is a super cool page. It allows all Mimaki users to post their business and the resources that we provide, allowing for the industry kind of to come together and get in touch with the people they would like to do business with. So for one of the Mike Speak on Top Value Fabrics, very impressive resource center. So Mike, here you go.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Yeah, we've got a tremendous amount of resources on our website. What you're seeing here is the link to our COVID-19 Resource Center, which is really excellent because this is almost updated daily for fabrics that will serve as non-medical PPE fabrics. So masks, gowns, scrubs, pretty much everything, even like the tents and canopies that we talked about. And as part of this, we also list applications like we just talked about, and there will be more and more of this. This continues to evolve all the time. And there's also print ready templates for medical messaging, signage, all types of other things. And so, you know, feel free to visit any of them. If you have any questions, reach out to us. Our sales consultants are always willing to help you out, especially build your business and anything that we can do to help. And it's really nice with the partners we have here with Mimaki and Gerber, because we all have these interactive sites to help the customers out. And once you get a look at them, you're going to really understand how we link together, especially when Gerber explains their COVID website and partners.
So Gerber.
Yes, thank you, Victoria. So we do have also, in partnership with Value Fabric and Mimaki as well, a website, a COVID-19 resource center. So especially if you're considering converting your production to PPE, whether it's medical or non-medical PPE for mask, scrub, but also coveralls or shoe covers, even face shields, all those applications, we have some patterns that production ready you can download. Most of the time, this is the most difficult things when you want to convert your production to soft sign and graphics to the PPE. So here you have all the materials you need. You also have the labels, which are really important when you produce those PPEs. You have a bunch of videos of resources, the links if you want to get in touch with also other manufacturers just to share with them. We have a matchmaking program. So you can find all of this. So when you log into COVID-19, you join the task force, then you access the image you see on the right, which is the resource center. And don't hesitate to get in touch with our teams, and we'll be very happy to help you, support you on this conversion, and share with you all the assets and tools we have. Right now, in this COVID-19 program, we have more than 1,500 companies who joined us and that we've been helping and working with. So we've been very happy to be able to help you as well. Yes, that's the detail, and yeah.
Special effects.
Thank you, Victoria.
And for the
yes.
additional resources with the PPE production, could you share some more details?
Sure.
Yes, absolutely.
Go ahead, Ketty.
Oh, okay, yes, go ahead, Mark.
Sure. So this slide is really intended to show some of the applications our customers are using an MCT cutter to produce related to PPE. And prior to, let's say, March 16th, our customers had never made any of these products with an MCT cutter, but we've just had an influx of customers asking, I want to get involved. What can I do? Here's what I have for equipment. So this is just a great illustration of what customers are doing with the MCT cutter. So with regard to face shields, our customers are knife cutting the foam that's used at the top of the face shield to keep the plastic away from the person's forehead. And then customers are actually cutting the plastic with either the knife or the router or the laser on an MCT cutter. In fact, I have one customer that had never made a face shield prior to third week in March, and he's literally making thousands of face shields a day. It's just an incredible story for hospitals, and I won't say where, but just a great, great story. And then with regard to masks and gowns, with the laser or the driven rotary tool, our customers are able to produce medical masks, non-medical masks, and of course, medical gowns in many different levels, level 1 all the way up to level 4. As retail stores open up, we're just seeing an incredible demand for plastic barriers. So in retail areas, plastic barriers are being put around cash registers. And even in workspaces, plastic barriers are showing up to separate areas within the workspace. So with the MCT cutter, you can actually cut up to 12 millimeter plastic, and with the laser or the router. And as Mike and Michael mentioned earlier, I think we're going to see a transition towards more getting away from some of the plastic and more into the printed friendly environment, maybe printed themes in restaurants. So there's just so many applications of transitioning business towards PPE and themed areas that I think we're going to see quite a bit of in the short term.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, and an additional resource I'd like to point it out, because it's a lot of new applications and a lot of diverse products that you can actually produce where you're in a signage environment. And we have a tool on the resource center where you just select which industry you're in, which kind of product you're actually producing. And this tool tells you what you can produce and the difficulty to transition to this. So iterating from A, B, and C. And for example, if you're on the signage, if you want to produce the face shield, it's going to be an A. It's going to be a very easy transition because you have all the tools and know how to do it. However, if you want to transition, for example, to gowns, which requires more complex patterns and working different fabrics as well, then this will be a B or a C. So you can just very easily see all the applications and the difficulty to transition to this. So this has been a very useful tool as well for our customers.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you guys so much. There's so many additional resources. I'm so happy we can come together and provide this to the industry. Mimaki has some special promotions for the printing equipment from April 1st to June 26th. For our TS55 medium to large production and our TS300P small to medium production dye sublimation transfer printers, you have a $2,000 instant rebate for the TS55 and then a $9,000 instant rebate for the TS300. Both of these come with a $1,000 consumable voucher and 2 years of insurance coverage. So then also for product bundles specials, we have the $2,000 instant rebate for the TS55, plus it comes with a 10 kilogram ink system. Same thing with the $1,000 consumable voucher and 2 years coverage. Also the TS55, there's another bundle that allows you to do the 10 kilogram ink and then the jumbo roll unit. And this also has the $1,000 consumable voucher and the 2 years of coverage. Mimaki, in response to COVID-19, has set up, there's payment relief for up to 6 months. You can find various financing solutions here at the link below. If you'd like to adapt new technology, this is definitely something to look into. We would love for you to come visit one of our showrooms. We have 7 locations in North America, and all of our experts will be there to take care of you and help you with whatever your needs are. We also in the Los Angeles showroom, our Textile Innovation Center is fully equipped with Gerber's MCT cutter, as well as pre and post finishing equipment for direct-to-textile printing. So we have coating machines, steaming post-processing machines for fiber reactive and acid and all ink types. We also have every type of ink printing system for textiles at our Los Angeles showroom, as well as cutting tables, sewing machines. So we would love for you guys to come out and test your solutions with us. And now we're going to move into the Q&A. I'm going to invite Christina from Mimaki's PR department to go through some of the questions you guys have posted during the presentation with us. Christina?
Yes. So the first question we had is whether we lose antimicrobial properties when the fabric is printed. And I guess that would be mostly a question for Mimaki and Top Value Fabrics.
Yes, on these coatings.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Okay, on these coatings, they once they're put on, they are on the fabric. They're not going to get lose their potency by printing them. They'll be as good as they were before they were printed and continue to be there up to 25, 30 washings.
I would like to add to that, there is one limitation, however, when you're using the antimicrobial finish, you wouldn't be able to, like for printing with pigment inks, you wouldn't be able to coat the fabric first and then print with the pigments. You would have to use the pigment inks without the coating on the textile. So, you know, for direct to fabric printing, are some limitations with antimicrobial finishes.
Right. So one of the other things you're going to face if you print with let's say a latex or a UV ink, the part of the fabric that you cover up with the antimicrobial finish on it, you're also covering the antimicrobial characteristics of the fabric. So to have the entire, let's say, display still exhibit the antimicrobial the right way, you want to print with dye sublimation or direct disperse if possible. Or, you know, if it's a smaller print, then you won't cover as much of the antimicrobial up.
And you still can print, I did mention pigment inks, you still can print with pigment inks. You would just utilize not the coating, Lubrizol coating on the fabric first.
Perfect. There was also a question, Victoria, I'm going to address this one to you. Somebody saw a picture at a hospital and they were wondering if printed fabrics were safe for that type of environment.
Yeah, so with dye sublimation inks, all of Mimaki's dye sublimation inks are Oeko-Tex certified, so they're suitable for hospitals and schools.
Perfect. For Top Value Fabrics, are all the fabrics, do they have fire retardant?
Yes, most of the fabrics, as a matter of fact, have fire retardants built into them. And we're happy to supply that. We even supply FR certificates per fabric for each lot. So again, you saw an image in a hospital, that would be like the Deco-Tex 7048 with antimicrobial finish. It also has the FR finish on it too. And again, since most of the fabrics are used inside, they are all fire rated.
Okay, great. Another question that I'm going to direct to you: how often should people wash soft signage, or should they even wash it?
Well, I mean, a lot of with direct disperse dyes and dye sublimation inks on polyester fabrics, you can wash them basically as many times as you want. You don't typically see that time after time. It might happen, you know, a few times, as an example, especially like if it's a tablecloth or something like that. But typically what happens, you know, after a few washes is the graphic is just replaced. So yeah, you can wash them though. Good question.
This is a question on the printers. So Victoria, can you give more information about how many UV printers does Mimaki offer that can print on the fabrics mentioned?
Yeah, so we have, I didn't include a slide, but very commonly UV roll-to-roll machines are used for soft signage applications. So we have the UCJV series, which can print on textiles. And we also have the wide format UJV 55 for your 10-foot banners and such. The difference with the UV inks versus the sublimation inks that we covered in this presentation is the UV inks are jetted onto the textile and then cured instantly with the UV light connected to the carriage. So there is it's great for applications with UV light, but not necessarily best suited for like wash fastness, as with the dye sublimation. So the UCJV series would be used for your smaller soft signage applications, and the grand format would be, your focus would be the UJV 55. That printer we see a lot in the market for large exhibit graphics. Lots of companies utilize this printer and installation companies as well.
Okay. There was also a question about how many textile inks do we offer? So if you can elaborate more on textile inks.
Okay, so we just talked about UV inks. We also talked about the direct sublimation inks and the transfer sublimation inks. Mimaki also provides high energy disperse inks, which are give you a little bit more higher UV fastness, but these come in an 8-color set. So you wouldn't be able to run them in the hybrid dual 4-color printer that I mentioned earlier. So we have the high energy dispersed reactive inks, which are really ideal for the apparel industry application because they have the highest wash fastness and the brightest, largest color gamut. And then we also have acid inks, which you would use with silks, nylons, wools. And we have pigment inks, which I mentioned briefly a second ago. And pigment inks, they sit directly on the surface of the textile and can be primarily used with the natural fibers. They have the most affinity for textiles like cotton, linen, bamboo, hemp. But with a coating on the textile, they have very good color reproducibility on blended textiles and protein fibers such as silk, nylon, wool, and etc. So that's all of the ink sets.
Okay. We also had a few questions come in when Gerber was presenting their different products. So I'm going to address these two next questions to Katie and Mark. What is the widest cutter that you make that works on printed fabric?
The widest cutter is a 3.2 meter wide cutter. So we have 3 size cutters in width, 1.6 meter, 2.2 meter, and 3.2 meter wide, and then a variety of different lengths.
Perfect. And is the Tiger software sold with the machine or is that separate?
Nope, Tiger software is included with every machine. We actually provide a Windows-based PC with every machine, and Tiger Vision software is loaded onto that PC. So we try to make it really simple for our customers to get up and started and running quickly.
Okay, perfect. And the model that was mentioned, Victoria mentioned that Gerber has a model installed in our LA showroom. Yes. Is that the same one that was discussed during our presentation?
Really, all the models are identical. So whether you have what's in the LA showroom, to answer the question, is a 1.6 by 3.2 meter size table. But the only difference between the table sizes is just the table size. So you can equip the 16 or the 1632 with a laser, without a laser, with a router, without a router, with 11 different knife tools, and that's true for any one of our cutters. So it's designed to be completely modular and at a customer's discretion. Some customers, they know they want to put a laser on, and they may start with just knife tools, and you can add a laser later down the road. And other customers, they start right off with a laser, and then they add different knife tools or even add a router. So all very modular, all fully flexible.
Perfect. We also had a couple of questions coming in regarding the locations. So Victoria and Michael, I will actually transfer this to you for Mimaki. Are locations for demos open?
Yes, they are. We'll be opening in June, so we have a couple days. So they'll be reopening. There is some guidelines you just want to check out with that regional showroom. You know, give them a call, set up an appointment to make a demo, and they'll go over any special guidelines with you then.
Great. The final question we had for Mimaki as well, somebody said these discussions have been great, so we're glad to hear that. They received an email with special offers after the last webinar that they attended. Will these offers be extended throughout the summer?
I think the promotions that we have currently are going to be good for till June 26th.
Perfect. Well, that's all the questions that came through in the chat. I know the team also shared their contact information, and we have the different demo locations as well if they want to ask someone more local to them for advice. But I'll pass the microphone. Actually, oops, sorry, one last question came in last minute. What is the image quality as compared to direct? So I'll pass that question to you, Victoria. Can you discuss more of the image quality of sublimation as compared to direct to fabric
Yeah,
printing?
so when you print with the sublimation transfer, you do have a better, more defined imagery. So for products that you'll be viewing very up close, especially with like polyester lycras or stretch knits, this is you'll have a more defined, brighter image. However, the ink penetration is the to the reverse side of the fabric is the limitation.
Perfect. And sorry, I actually jumped the gun. There's another last question, or I guess one more popped up. What equipment is on demo at what facility?
I would say the Los Angeles showroom's fully equipped with all technologies, but I would say that depending upon what region you are, contact the regional showroom and discuss with them like what you're looking for, and go from there. Most all the regional showrooms are fully equipped with most of the technologies, but I can't speak for every region and every. Mimaki has such a diverse line of products, from industrial, 3D, signage, and textile, that that would be the best route to go.
The person was looking specifically for sublimation equipment.
Every showroom in the U.S., North America.
Great. So hopefully somebody can schedule their demo coming up.
Yeah, that'd be great. We'd love to have you.
Well, on that note, I don't see any more questions popping up. So I don't know if you want to, I'll pass the microphone up to you.
Yeah, so thank you so much for joining us today. Please stay tuned and join us soon. We do have an upcoming webinar on Thursday, June 11th. We'll be discussing expanding and growing business with interior and outdoor decor applications for COVID-19 and beyond. And this will include different textile innovations for the hospitality, retail, and home markets. So we look forward to seeing you there. And so there's no more questions. I'm going to bring the webinar to a closing. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.